Have you ever wondered if your name shaped who you became? Most of us just grow into the names we are given. But what if your name was basically a set of instructions? In 1918, a boy was born in a tiny rural village in South Africa. His parents gave him the Xhosa name Rolihlahla. In everyday conversation, that translates directly to troublemaker. He was born into a side branch of the powerful Thembu royal family. He was a relative of the king, recognized a noble advisor, even if he wasn't in line to wear the crown himself. When he was only 9 years old, his father died unexpectedly. It was a massive loss, but his father left him with two very distinct personality traits: a proud, rebellious streak and a deeply stubborn sense of fairness. These early traits, defiance and a demand for fairness, gave him a foundation. As he grew, he would have to learn how to use these tools against a world that was much larger and more complicated than his home village. After his father's death, his mother sent him to live at the Great Place, a royal palace. There he became the ward of a powerful leader, Chief Jongintaba, who treated the boy like his own son. The palace became his first real classroom. He sat in on large tribal meetings, absorbing rich African history. More importantly, he watched his guardian lead by letting everyone else speak first, teaching the boy the patient art of listening to all sides of an argument before making a decision. He also had a very different kind of classroom. Because his mother was a devout Christian, she sent him to a local Methodist mission school. On his very first day there, his teacher decided his African name wasn't suitable. Following strict British colonial customs, she erased his given name entirely and told him that from now on he would be called Nelson. Navigating these two clashing worlds created a deep tension inside him. He grew up with a profound reverence for his African heritage, while simultaneously experiencing exactly how colonial rulers erased local identities to maintain control. Years later, Nelson arrived at an elite university. The administration there expected the students to absorb a curriculum that constantly reinforced European superiority, preparing them to be obedient civil servants. Nelson rejected that path. Instead of conforming, he actively broke strict social taboos by making friends with students from completely different African tribes. This broadened his worldview and deepened his own cultural pride. Soon, he found his voice as an activist. When the students felt the cafeteria food was unacceptable, Nelson helped organize a boycott. The university responded by suspending him, and he never returned to finish his degree there. Complaining about cafeteria food might seem like a minor grievance, but this was his practice run. He was finally applying his guardian's lessons in fairness, testing his ability to organize people and push back against larger authorities. To avoid an arranged marriage back home, Nelson fled to the sprawling, busy metropolis of Johannesburg. This chart shows the harsh reality of South Africa at the time. The government operated under a legally engineered system called apartheid. The white minority held total legal control over the nation's land, wealth, and resources, while the black majority was systematically deprived. These laws dictated where they could live and work, enforcing strict physical segregation. Mandela expanded his focus from local disputes to the struggles of his whole country. He became a lawyer to use the legal system as a weapon, organizing mass protests to defy the segregation laws. The rebellious boy from the village had grown up. He was now a highly educated, deeply motivated attorney, posing a direct threat to a massive apparatus of oppression. The government recognized exactly how dangerous his organizing was. To silence him and crush his movement, they arrested him, put him on trial, and sentenced him to life in prison. He would spend the next 27 years behind bars. During that long incarceration, the government repeatedly offered him deals. They told him he could walk free on the condition that he renounce his political goals and condemn his own cause. He refused every single time. That stubborn sense of fairness he inherited from his father made it impossible for him to accept personal freedom while his people remained locked in a segregated society. The state locked him away so the country would forget him. Instead, his refusal to break turned his silence into a deafening global message. He became the undisputed international symbol of the struggle against apartheid. Finally, the domestic and international pressure became too much. In 1990, the government relented, and Nelson walked out of prison as a free man, with no conditions attached. After losing 27 years of his life, many expected him to seek revenge. Instead, he reached back to the lessons he learned as a boy in the royal palace. He prioritized careful listening, diplomacy, and a fierce commitment to national unity. He sat down at the negotiating table with the very government that had imprisoned him. Together, they mapped out the end of apartheid, leading South Africa to its first fully representative, multiracial democratic election in 1994. He won that election, becoming South Africa's first Black president. In office, he spent his time actively fostering racial reconciliation, using sports, truth commissions, and public outreach to piece a deeply fractured nation back together. By holding firm to his principles, Nelson Mandela proved a very specific truth. If you want to dismantle a deeply unjust system and build a lasting peace in its place, sometimes you have to start out as a little bit of a troublemaker.